Chapter 21. Kai's Turn. Kaismo, snickered Nicholas. Yes, Nicky, Kai retorted. The laughter instantly silenced. Fair enough. Good luck. Giving him a wide grin, Ashley finally let go of Kai's arm. There were whispers all around as he walked towards the large, imposing instructor. He couldn't hear what they were saying. His heart was pounding loudly, both from the nerves and excitement. Instructor Sven stood firm. Oddly, the sword he had used the entire time was missing as Kai settled into the spot opposite him. Settling his nerves, he took a few deep breaths. Sven kept assessing Kai even further after he had made it to the ring. Human. Not surprising. Cineris, is your brother Garen Cineris? Sven asked. Kai paused for a second, then nodded. Makes sense, he might know my brother. He does use a sword as well, so it's very likely he took this same course. You know Garen? Sven nodded his bald head. Your brother was one of the finest swordsmen I've ever trained. He has great potential. A wicked grin came to his face. He also mentioned you. Kai could hear louder whispers now. Cineris, the only commoner winner of the end-of-year tournament so far. Dragging his sword out of the sheath, Kai bent his knees, slightly settling into a stance. He held the sword with both hands on the grip, the tip pointed at Instructor Sven. Nice sword. Also bending his knees lightly, a new weapon appeared in Sven's hands. A dull-looking staff made entirely of brown and silver-looking wood. It wasn't completely straight in its 2-metered length. It looked knobby, as if it was a tree branch cut straight down and left untrimmed, instead of a proper weapon. A stick or a staff? Does he know I'm not used to fighting against a staff? Is that why he changed? Branch. Well, that's new. The instructor's stance gave away nothing other than the fact he was relaxed. His staff branch stood against the ground like a walking stick. Kai towed over slowly, taking deliberate steps with care as he narrowed the distance. He knew he was going to be at a range disadvantage soon. His reach was much smaller, so he had to get inside the instructor's maximum range, but not so close that he couldn't swing his sword. At least that was what his training had told him, but he knew it wouldn't be that easy. As if he blinked, the staff vanished from its position and appeared right in front of his face. Dipping his head left on reflex, he dodged the staff, his hair blowing in the wind as it passed by his head. Sven drew back to release another strike. Not giving him a chance to strike again, Kai moved in quickly, swinging from his right, only for the strike to be blocked by the staff as if it had teleported once more, predicting his telegraphed strike. Sven was using his incredible higher stat to his advantage, not that he couldn't truly make himself less than what he was. He moved the staff with lightning speed to block and strike. Ducking, Kai dodged a near headshot, the staff passing right over his hair. He countered by jabbing the sword at Sven's stomach while he was low, only for the instructor to take a step back and widen the distance between them so it favored him again. Kai dodged the low sweep at his legs, forcing him to jump up and towards Sven or else be kept at a distance. Positioned overhead, he swung down with all his raw power at the unprepared instructor. A smile on Sven's face as his staff and hands moved to intercept the strike once again. A resounding clap echoed out as metal sword met wooden staff. A small stalemate ensued as instructor and student pushed against each other in a power struggle. During the pushing contest, Kai could feel a small hum in the air. The gravity seemed to be vibrating all around him as if it wanted to help. He ignored the feeling, knowing this match had to be won or lost without magic. They pushed at each other for 30 seconds, with no ground being won or lost. Witnessing Sven smirking, Kai knew the balance would be broken. His arms and hands trembled, muscles screaming at him as he began being pushed back. Sven's arms and hands were as steady as an unmovable mountain as he pushed his staff against Kai's sword. Breaking the stalemate, Kai took a quick step back, dropping his left arm to his side as he flung his grandfather's knife at the instructor's chest, only to have it bounce off, doing nothing to him or his clothing. Patting his shirt where the knife landed, Sven's eyes changed. Gone was the grinning, smirking man, a more serious expression took over. Mild killing intent radiated from Sven, but it was enough to give Kai pause. Shit. For the next 5 minutes, Instructor Sven began changing up his combat style from jabs and swings to a more mobile style of staff technique. His staff moved with speed and precision which Kai struggled to keep up with. He would occasionally get gently tapped on the forearm or leg. The flowing staff would spin and twirl into one strike and the next, an unbroken chain of attacks, pressing Kai on the defensive. Any counter Kai could manage would be instantly countered back with the opposite end of the staff. His hand began to become slick, the sweat making it more difficult to hold firmly. A flurry of blows finally sealed the deal when a hit landed on the back of Kai's sword hand, forcing him to drop his beloved sword. Kneeling on one knee, Kai couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He was exhausted as his entire body was full of sweat, having been pushed to both his physical and mental limits. The only sound he could hear was his breathing and rapid heartbeat. Blinking, he grabbed his sword and stood up. Sven's staff was gone. The serious expression now one of curiosity and contemplation. How strange. You're rough, Kai. Your techniques and style are lacking compared to your brothers, but you have much better battle instincts. How strange indeed. Kai could only shrug. My father and I would spar occasionally. He supplied a plausible lie, with a face of skepticism. Did he ever use a staff in your spars? Only a few times, though it's not his preferred weapon, Kai admitted. In truth, he had relied on instinct and his experience much of the fight. It was all he could do to react to Sven's precise attacks. And he knew Sven was holding back considerably to the point where Kai could only barely react to the staff. Since he had spared with his father, he was somewhat used to fighting opponents faster and stronger. But that was only without magic. Once magic entered the fights, it changed the dynamics of the fight entirely. Do you have a passive perception skill then? Not yet, Kai replied. You have a solid foundation of the basics, which combined with your battle instincts makes you formidable. And yet, you don't seem to have a specific style as if it was intentional. With a shake of his head, Sven seemed to decide to ignore the abnormality. I have high expectations for you, Kai. You will be placed in Group S. Holding his hand out, he passed Kai's knife to him. Sheathing his sword and knife, Kai bowed lightly. Thank you for the spar. He felt a little self-conscious under all the stares he was receiving. The adrenaline was beginning to wear off. New aches formed in his legs and arms. His breathing had returned to normal, but he couldn't help sucking in air when a cold breeze flowed against the welt forming on the back of his hand where the instructor had smacked him. Stamina, 51 out of 250. Looking at his stat sheet, he noticed he had gone through a lot of his stamina. That made sense. He had been fighting at his max for over 5 minutes straight without pause or rest. You did amazing, Ashley yelled, running up to him with an infectious smile on her face, making Kai smile as well. Wow, that was impressive, she purred, running a hand down his arm. Even with his lack of stamina, he considered the fight a win in his books. He had been able to hold out against an unfamiliar weapon and was placed in the highest category among the other students. Still, he couldn't deny he had a lot to learn and a style to learn. Nicholas gave Kai an appraising look. Damn, that was entertaining. Man, you should have seen Instructor Sven's face the second your knife hit his chest. I'm sure he let it happen, but I think even he was surprised you would fling a knife at him in the middle of a duel like an assassin, he said, laughing. Feeling killing intent radiating behind him, Kai turned his head and saw Jason staring at him with fury in his eyes. Just from the look in his eyes, he could tell there would be payback for doing better and embarrassing him. Kai just stared back unperturbed, ready for the challenge. Nicholas swung his arm around Kai's shoulder. Worried? A little. He doesn't look like the type of guy to forget grudges, Kai responded. Well, let's add a little fuel to that funeral pyre then, Ashley smirked as she sauntered over to Jason. All the male's eyes followed her. Ashley's step and hip movements were exaggerated, knowing she had an audience. You lost the bet. Hand them over. Ashley held out her palm expectantly. Jason appeared conflicted. He doesn't have the skills to be in Group S. You heard the instructor. Not my problem. Why don't you take it up with Sven if you disagree with his placement? Ashley said with a knowing smirk. With eyes of promised vengeance, Jason unstrapped both boots before ripping them off and shoving them into her hands. An instant later, he summoned another pair of brown leather boots from what Kai assumed was his storage ring. Ashley's smile widened, taunting the angry noble before she dismissively turned back to Kai and Nicholas. Stopping for a moment, she turned to Jason and winked. I guess you'll have to work harder to earn my forgiveness. Who is she? Kai whispered to Nicholas, his eyes still on the entertainment before him. She is, let's just say her status in the kingdom is greater than my own. Surprised, Kai turned his head to see Nicholas's mouth was a thin line. His demeanor told Kai that it wasn't a joke. Let's just say that not even the king can tell me what to do, Ashley said as she approached, obviously hearing Nicholas's response. Locking eyes with Kai, she moved to him before saying, for you, as she held out Jason's boots. Kai was speechless at how brazen and obvious she was being. Her intentions were clear on her face, a mischievous smirk as she added more fire to Jason's hatred. He could feel killing intent being focused on him from multiple sources, but it was definitely strongest from where Ashley just walked from. I don't think I can accept those. Thank you, however, Kai denied, trying not to become enemy number one. No, I insist. You did so well, I think you deserve a reward. Also, I couldn't have won the bet without you. Ashley smiled sweetly, humor dancing in her eyes. Besides, I can't wear these. It will clash with my style. Not to mention I have better stuff than this. Kai looked down at the boots. They were a combination of hardened leather and metal. Scaly, light grey leather covered the entire outside of the boots. No obvious glyphs or enchantments showed on them, but they did appear very high quality and well made. Not that Kai was an expert. Boots, Aerowolf leather, enchanted. Enchantments, durability +6, self-clean, resize. The enchantments were likely to be hidden out of sight, one sign of high-quality work. Any idea what an Aerowolf is? Nope. You will have to ask someone knowledgeable, maybe at the local guild or armor shop. Or, you could ask Jason, she teased. Kai sighed. Such a dilemma. I'm being used to make Jason angrier for nothing but her fun and enjoyment, but I really am lacking gear. Whatever the asshat already hates me. With a roll of his eyes, Kai hesitantly reached out, picking up the boots. With no ring of storage, he decided to put them on right there. Sensing danger, he looked to Jason. If glares could kill, he chuckled to himself. Thank you, he spoke softly, looking back to Ashley. I just hope accepting these isn't like accepting a marriage proposal. You're most welcome. I'm glad you didn't disappoint. I really didn't want to forgive that slimy bastard. Jason's teeth gnashed together as he stared at Kai and Ashley with a deadly cold glare. Kai couldn't lie, he got immense satisfaction from seeing Jason like that, but he was certain he just made an enemy for the rest of the duration at this academy. They fit like they were made for me. Kai couldn't help but taunt the frothing noble. Nicholas started shaking with laughter. A few other brave people joined in. The rest of the students finished up their spar with Instructor Sven. He looked fresh and unruffled, as if the last few hours of combat meant nothing to him. By the end, a total of 6 people had made it into Group S, including Kai, Ashley, and Nicholas. Instructor Sven had only used the odd staff during his fight with Kai. Class, Sven boomed, next session, I want you to get together with your group and instructor and begin your training. If your group's instructor believes you are capable of moving up into the next group, then you will be allowed to join the next group. For those of you in Group S, there will be no moving up. Dismissed.